G'day folks, Alex McKellar here again with another Top Split TV or Top Split Racing replay. This week we're back. Missed last week at Lime Rock Park. Did a lot of racing there, just was nothing. There was some good races, don't get me wrong, but there was nothing that stood out as something that, you know, was interesting to go through in a video like this. Well, I did have some ideas for some other stuff, but that's probably another story. Anyway, Bathurst, the sacred mountain home of Australian motorsport, and an iconic track around the world. 10 laps in the skips, of course. You know, what more could you ask for? Grid for this one. So this was it was a 2K soft, a 2,000 strength of field. It was, what was it, 2,073. But if you look at the top end of town, there's some serious races around there. I managed to get pole. Oh, it's a bit hard to see on that view. What about if I do that? Does it make it any easier? Yeah, look, it was a really hot track. It was, I think it was 29 degrees, so the times are right up. But I was really surprised, actually. I haven't talked to Luke since I've actually only just finished this race, but I haven't talked to Luke. I wouldn't mind a bit of a debrief after this one, whether or not he's stuffed quality, because he's got great pace here. But I had a bit of a gap. He got both laps in too, so I was a bit surprised. But second row of the grid, a couple of the regulars in the Skippy community, both streaming these days actually. Dimitri and Neil, they've done a lot of laps at pretty much every track this season. This one being no exception, as we're on a Thursday night. Dennis Johansson, the Great Dane himself, in the Doggo Mobile. He's starting on row 3. Hasn't been his strongest track this week, but he comes to race, and race he does. And Terry McGrowther, who been racing a little bit more with in recent times. He was there filling out the third row. It starts to drop off a bit after that. We do have regulars though, in Mark Jeffrey for Brown Suit Racing. He's one of the regulars in there. Will Kirk I used to see a bit of, but I don't see so much anymore. Full grid, so it was a single split, right? So that's why there was such a spread. I think the lowest I rating in this field was around the 400 to 500 mark. So there was quite a discrepancy in experience, potentially in pace. As you can see, the slowest qualifier was 15 seconds off the pace. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get into race mode, and we'll get on with it. 10 laps around here, of course, and a great fun track. So let's get on with it. So we're away. I typically move straight over to the right hand side to open up turn 1, and I've been really trying to attack turn 1 at corners if I manage to get pole, because it's something I saw Kane Halliburton do one of the final rounds of SNL. He popped in for a guest appearance, and he really attacked turn 1 at that final round, and the race was pretty much all over. Anyway, as is quite often the case, the guy in second comes up the inside at Griffins on lap 1. I was very mindful I didn't want to let 2 through. So this track, it can be rocks or diamonds, really, in terms of the racing, because there's 2 to 3 key passing opportunities. 2 main ones being the one we just went through, where Luke went through on me at Griffins, and the other one, of course, into the chase at the end of Conrod Straight after the kink. The rest of this track, you're really, by and large, typically racing the track. More so probably in other more high-powered cars. In the skip, it's more about obviously keeping it straight, keeping it out of the walls, getting your inputs just right. But you've got a little bit more time to adjust or make adjustments if you get it slightly wrong. It's a bit more of a forgiving car for the most part. So we're following Luke through. Dennis in P4's already gone past Neil, who the race before this I was watching, and I think they had a coming together on the last lap, so Neil decided discretion the better part of valor in the early stages of the race after Dennis made the move into Griffins much the same way as Luke made it on me. So here's the draft down. Interestingly, the draft down Conrod, in this case, Luke gave me the line. He gave me the preferred racing line, left the door open. He wasn't defending so much as just making sure I got the fastest way through, because interestingly, over the radio, it might have been on the first lap, might have been the second, I can't remember, Dennis came on. He was worried about the pace up front, because if you can break the draft here, and even if you've got a tenth of pace, it's multiplied by the draft effect. So if you're out of the draft, the cars in front can typically leapfrog, and it's one of the last few genuine draft tracks that we race at in the skips since the aero and the model of the car changed a bit a few seasons ago. So I'd argue that this track is where the draft plays the most significant part in races. I did one last night where there was a really significant difference in pace between myself and the guys I was racing with, but the draft meant that they were able to stay in the race, and we actually had quite a good race. You see, I chose to return the favour with Luke there and gave him the racing line into turn 2 at Griffins as he went through, and Dennis has made his move. Dimitri's led him through, and now Dennis is in third. My thinking coming into this race, 2k strength of field, a lot of pace up the front. My goal this season, as you know, has been to hit 7k I rating. It's been, for me, in a race like this where there's nothing on offer in terms of I rating, but a lot to lose. You got to remember, if any one of the top 5 drivers has an accident and drops to the rear of the field, it's probably going to cost them anywhere from 100 to 150 I rating. So yeah, there's not a lot to gain, but there's a lot to lose. So and I can tell you, in a race like this, if I finish third, I'm lucky to break even, but you know, podium was my goal at a minimum, to sort of if we can't win at podium, sort of minimises the damage, so to speak. Luke's got a good drive out of there. You see, I had a poor run down the mountain and I'm 4/10 behind. Dennis is 4.5 behind me. So you can see how the draft's pulling me in and Dennis is not coming any closer, but because I wasn't quite close enough, I back out here. And Luke had a little bit of a whoopsie through there on cold tyres, but that was, and he apologised on the radio, but and missed the apex of at the chase, but that was more on me getting the poor run out of the elbow. If I'd got a better run out of the elbow, I could have made the leapfrog and it would have been fine. So it was, I put that more down to me than him, to be honest. It was interesting though that down Conrod he was leaving the inside, sorry, the left-hand side of the track, the outside of the kink, and the inside to the subsequent chase. But it is probably faster if you get that leapfrog right, but because my run out of the elbow was so bad, it wasn't a thing. So we're still a pack of 6 at this stage, and I'm a firm believer, as Luke again leaves me essentially the racing line into Griffins this time round, and stays on the inside to defend, and it's a good tactic in my books to stay on the inside there, because if you go and stay on the outside of Griffins there, if you're drafting or you're being passed and you leave the inside open, you run the risk of 2 cars going through, which in the right company is not uncommon and a legit strategy. The two cars side by side, the trailing car, if it's me, I position myself behind the outside car and try and pull underneath, taking a racing line, and you can get a much better run through there. Anyway, lead pack of 6 and we've broken away, and realistically in a single split race like this where all the cars that have signed up are in the same race and there's such a large disparity between I rating and skill and potentially experience as well, you're really in different races, honestly. So the front 6 here are in a different race, as you can see on the timing tree, to everyone else at this point. but it is a lead pack of 6, and that really changes the nature of the conversation in this front pack, in the non-verbal and sometimes in this race the verbal conversation. I decided I'd leave Luke the right hand side of Conrod. I wasn't as comfortable doing what he was doing. I hadn't practiced it or anything, and here we go. Dennis shows the nose into the chase. The extra speed there, I think, in the warmer track conditions than we've experienced lately, causing Luke to miss the apex again there at the chase. It's great to see Luke in the Milo livery back racing, and again, he missed the apex of the final corner too, running wide. It's great to see him in the skips again, and for the first time Dennis plays his hand. So I left a bit of room for Luke because he made that mistake, and Dennis has put it on the outside to put me off. And you see how close he is to me on the exit. He's trying to set up a move into Griffins. I'm sticking well to the right. I don't want him on my inside into Griffins, and Dimitri's come up on the left. Dimitri's currently on my left, and Dennis has set up a move, but it's fallen the way of Dimitri, and he's thinking about going 3 wide. You can just see in my mirror. But I've got the inside here. Dimitri backs out. There's very little grip on the outside. It used to be that you get the move done on the outside. You see I cover the inside line there so that Dennis couldn't come over on the inside and go up the inside of the cutting here. Because if Dennis goes up the inside of the cutting there, it's the nature of making overtakes. You're slower. Doesn't mean he's slow, it just means that the overtake makes us slower. And I guarantee you Luke would have got away at that point. Because of the inside line that I defended into Griffins, Luke got half a second. And you can see out of the cutting, that last tight left-hander as you come up the mountain, it's all flat through here, and it's a big draft zone. So I caught up 3/10 in that zone. Not because I was faster, just because of the draft. Thrilling piece of road here, coming down the mountain, culminating into the challenging and all-important elbow, Forest Elbow. You see I lost a bit to Luke down the hill or down the mountain, probably about 2/10 or thereabouts, but with the draft we'll be right back in it. But I'm a bit too far back to want to make a move. But you can see behind, Dennis is almost a second behind, and that big gap in front means that the draft will suck me up to the back of Luke's car, and we're over a second. But what it does do is compromise my braking here. I can't brake as deep as I want. I'm really hoping Luke gets a good run through here. He's pushing hard, you can see by his exit, but Dennis brakes so deep. He got 2/10 on us in there. We're down to 8, we're getting back up to 9. I'm really hoping Luke nails this corner, because this is our chance to get away. If we get away, I was confident we could make a break and potentially run away with it. And then all of a surprise, lap car lets us through, which was good of him, but a bit of a surprise, I have to admit. But we're down to 8/10, and Luke didn't get as good a run as I was hoping through turn 1, Hell Corner, because if he was a bit further in front I would have had more of a draft, and that might have enabled us to extend that to a second lead. I was confident that if we got to Griffins with a second lead, we were probably going to be away. But we were doing our best, but Dennis did really well, and he got it down. He gained about half a tenth, went from 8/10 to 7.5 into Griffins, and then managed to maintain it. And like I said, from here at the cutting, it's all a draft set. It's flat, and it's all draft. And so Dennis was then, what's that, 4/10 behind, and he's well and truly in the draft at that point. Luke will pull up close to me, then he'll run out of draft and no place to go past, and that'll bring Dennis right back into it. Dennis, I'll speak in singular terms, but there's also Dimitri, Mr. Grouther, and Neil there as well. Terry doing a great job, but he's right in the mix too. So we come through this great section. Some people have been taking the dipper there in third. I'm sticking to my usual approach in second there. This is such an important corner. I don't quite have my line right through there. I'd love to be a bit further over to the outside of the circuit on entry, but I haven't quite got it nailed. So I'm about 3/10 on exit. Luke gets a good exit, and again we've got a decent gap. Dennis hasn't had the best run down the hill, and excuse me, but we have kind of made it work. Well, Luke and I have made it work, and he's coming after us, and again straight back in, and he's inside 4/10 and right back into it, and the battle continues. And can you believe it? We're halfway through the race at the end of this lap. Absolutely crazy. It's going so quick. Anyway, halfway, second half of the race kicking off, and so far it's been your typical kind of Bathurst race. Oh, that was very, very scary. There was a car there on exit, and he held for the longest time before hitting the escape button and going back, grabbing a tow to the pits. And we all came around, and suddenly there was a car there, and then I think Dennis, I'm dead set, if that guy hadn't hit the escape button, then Dennis was driving straight through him. So again, to this point, it's a typical Bathurst race. Draft to pass only at the key points. Dennis was a bit worried there that Luke had sort of checked up a bit much, but I think that was because either my braking caught him out, or he caught himself out in the braking. As you can see, positions changing through the cutting there for P456. Dimitri's made his move back into fourth, or defended the position. The fastest lap of the race so far, not surprisingly, in a 5-car draft. Neil Gardner in P6 has dropped to 31.5. Again, the times aren't lightning fast here. The track temps were quite hot. But again, so far, she's pretty normal kind of Bathurst race, and there's still 6 cars in it. Now, you see that double pump on the accelerator there. That was a key moment. I got my run through the dipper slightly wrong. Luke's right on my tail, and Dennis is right on his. Fair to muddling exit through the elbow, and see Luke pulls out of my draft. Similar to what I was up the hill a lap or so back. He was too close, waits for there to be a decent draft or a decent time to accept the draft, and then he goes. And here comes the Great Dane. Dennis makes it briefly 3 wide. I lift out and tuck in behind, and then immediately I'm thinking, oh, I don't want to be third. I want to be in the top 2. So I'm trying to go underneath here, but there's no spot, and Dimitri's immediately in play. I let the car run out to the left. Make sure Dimitri doesn't think about coming up the inside, and then slowly move back once it's clear that he's not going to attack into the final corner. Dennis misses the apex a bit on the final corner, and we have a new leader. The Great Dane. The Dogomobile out in front. And very, very interesting. That really changes the dynamic. I've done a fair bit of racing with Dennis. I've done a fair bit of racing with Luke over the years, actually. Probably more with Luke than Dennis, given the time zones, as we see now. Interesting. 2 wide. Dennis moves over to the left to make sure Luke doesn't have run. I move over to the left once I'm sure Dimitri isn't going. Then I think, all right, I want to go underneath Luke, but he comes straight across. I actually lifted a little bit. I just wanted to make sure and see what he was doing, and straight away Luke tucked in behind through there. If I put the pressure on there, he's forced 2 wide and I potentially get the inside, but I didn't push the point there. I might be forced to down the track, because you've got to remember there's 3 cars behind me putting pressure on me. So as McLeod mate Doug will love, sometimes you've got to attack to defend, and attacking the guys in front means I'm also defending from the guys behind. Wasn't required on that instance or that occasion, as Dimitri wasn't attacking from behind. But definitely the nature of the racing has changed with Dennis on the front. He is very, very happy to race. He loves racing. By that I mean side by side, anywhere and everywhere. Luke and I were running quite sedately. It might have looked frantic, but it was quite sedately up front. But that only lasted as long as we were able to get enough of a gap out of the key parts of the circuit so that Dennis couldn't attack. The moment I got the poor run through the dipper, he was in a position to attack and straight away took advantage of it. And that is the mark of Dennis's racing. It's good quality, and very experienced and very fast. Excellent racer. We all make mistakes, and the amount he races, he makes mistakes just like we all do, as he lets Luke through, and Luke misses the apex at the final, or at the run through the chase. But I was saying, Dennis makes mistakes, but he's taking advantage here because he won't sit back. He will race, and side by side they go. And again, I'm thinking, come up the inside here. Those two will be compromised. Take as much of a racing line as you can and come up the inside. And at this point I thought, why not? Why not? Let's make it 3 wide into turn 1. See who backs out. I'm on a very compromised line, so I'm going to be very slow. I've got to go very carefully, leave room on the outside. Luke backed out. Dennis is still there. I'm very worried at this point because I don't want to be on the left into Griffins, because I can get double teamed through on the inside. And lo and behold, here comes McGrowther. 3 wide. I didn't want to be 2 wide on the outside, let alone 3 wide in the middle of a Skippy sandwich coming into Griffins. But I'm not backing out. I'm going in. 3 wide we enter. 3 men enter, 2 men leave, and McKellar comes out in front. I was not expecting that, but we all survived. High stakes game here, folks. Like I said, anyone in this top 5 crashes out and finishes at the back, there's 100 to 150 or more in some cases. I reckon I would have lost 160 if I finished last in this one. But we got through. How's that? 3 wide into Griffins. Only on lap 8. So the sheep stations aren't even quite on the line yet. But that was the nature of the racing once the heat got turned up. Dennis here. I stayed right. I thought, oh, he's not going to look. He's not going to look. And then he looks. He's on my right in the entry. We get it done side by side through the S's, if you don't mind. It's gone from, dare I say, lukewarm to boiling in the space of half a lap. I said to Dennis after the race, I had thought if we came into the situation that I might try and put him off by going 2 wide into the S's. So, you know, I couldn't begrudge him having to do the same thing when it happened in reverse. So, anyway, here comes Luke, here comes Dennis. We're going to go 3 wide once again briefly. On the run into the kink, I lifted bits. I thought Dennis might be gone there, but he managed not to catch any of the grass. If he catches the grass there, he's gone. And again, I'm trying to look underneath, see if I can get a run, and also get an eye on my mirror to make sure I'm not getting attacked by Terry in the background. As we cross the line now at the end of lap 8, we've got 2 to go. And as I said, it started out like a typical Bathurst race, but things have really, really heated up. So 2 laps to go. My thinking was, on the last lap, I wanted to be in second over the mountain. I wanted to be in second. I think the draft, if you're going to win it by draft, if you don't have a gap enough to make it, and the gap only needs to be about 7/10, and you're safe pretty much on an equivalent run. But again, 2 wide. Dennis surprisingly left the door open on the inside. I was always going to defend the inside here as Terry once again came beside me, and then he backed out. I could have taken more of the racing line. I thought about going underneath again, but I wasn't there, and I let Luke in. I moved over to the right. If Terry had been closer, I would have been on the left like Luke was for me, making sure that there was no opportunity to go 2 wide into the cutting. But I wanted to be second at this position here, by this position, or at the exit of turn 2 on the final lap. I needed to be in close to the car in front if I could manage to be in second, and then take advantage of the draft on the run down the hill. The guy in third can win it. It's tough. The guy in first can win it. like I said, 0.7, and you're pretty close if you get a good run out of the elbow. Everyone a little bit more calm this lap through the downhill section, because we all know there's one to go and the sheep stations are well and truly on the line at that point. So who wants to lead? Who wants to be where? As I said, I wanted to be second, but I don't want to be second here necessarily. I want to be second on the run up the hill, on the run up the mountain. And I'm actually quite a long way away here. Dennis leaves the outside of the kink, which will be the inside to the chase. He's trying desperately to get the side draft. I've come right into it here. I think, all right, can I get underneath through either one of the next few corners? Dennis runs wide. They go too wide. He runs wide to leave room. Gets a good drive out of there. They're side by side once again. So again, I'm thinking over under. Can we go 3 wide into the turn 1 for the final time this time round, or can I get the job done? Side by side into the braking zone in the final corner. Dennis under the grass. That gets me side by side. I've almost got what I want. Can I defend Dennis through here? I'm almost clear, but I had to leave him a lane on the outside, and I was worried. He's behind me, so I go across to the right. But then I hear car right. I don't have to let him back on there, but I heard car right, so I did. Luke surprisingly goes to the left, leaves the inside open. And Dennis and I, who've got great drive, and I'm getting Luke's draft briefly, his side draft, then I get Dennis's side draft. I'm on the outside as I pull in front of Luke. I did not want to be here, but I didn't get double teamed because, excuse me, Dimitri was side by side with Luke at the same time I was side by side with Dennis. So look at that. I'm in P2. I'm exactly where I want to be. Dennis checked up way more than I thought he was there, and I clipped the wall. And suddenly I'm thinking, have I got damage? What's going on? I'm testing the car, I'm feeling it, it feels okay, and then I look up and it's a 0.6 of a second gap and I don't have the equivalent drive. Can I get the toe to get close enough to get the run down the hill? And does that leave Luke behind me? He's less than 0.2. He's right on my bumper bar as a result of that checkup at the cutting. What does that mean for that? It's definitely going to be 3 into the chase. And you see, I got a better run through the S's. I got that draft. I got the good run through the S's. I got a relatively okay run through the dipper. Enough to open up a 10th on Luke. It's so hard to follow through there. I'm 3.5 tenths into the elbow. I'm 3.5 out. Good position. Got a roughly equivalent run. Luke's 2.5. It is going to be 3 wide at some point here. I have no doubt. Dennis moves right, moves left. I was expecting him to go right. He does. He opens up the outside. I'm thinking, good, I got the inside at the chase. Is it going to be 3 wide? It is. It's 3 wide into the kink. I've got to leave room for 2 cars on my inside. Don't hit the grass. But get the inside line at the chase. Don't hit the curb and bounce out. Dennis has gone too deep, and McKellar comes out the chase in front. Got one corner to make. They're 3 wide behind. I think I've got it at this point. Just get the corner right. Misses the apex terribly, but pulls it up. And we got it. We got it. After all that, my strategy worked. I couldn't believe it. Well, I could. The strategy worked, but I executed it, which was perhaps more of a surprise. But man, that was an epic race. Like, there've been some, I'm not going to say snooze fest, but there's been some, you know, last lap wonders kind of thing of the racing here, where it all comes down to the last lap. But this one was, the second half of the race was pretty crazy. Let's that's probably not what we want. Why don't we take a look at the last lap? Speaking of last laps, I might just change the angle on that a bit. Drop that down to about 6. All right, and we'll check out what happened in this last lap. Okay, so we can see at turn one. So it actually, let's just back it up a bit. So we're coming into the final corner here. And as I said, I wanted to open up the opportunity to come up the inside on the exit here. So you can see Dennis is right over to the right. I'm moving over to the right to open up the corner to try and take the racing line. I'm trying to focus on my exit here. So I back the corner up a bit. You see Dimitri's coming in pretty hot, but I should get a better exit here. That was the plan, and you can see that Dennis ran a little bit wide there. That was all it took to get me alongside him and legit alongside him. And I was all but clear. I'm on a compromised entry, but I'm clear enough to run it out wide. But Dennis, I get the call there that he's beside me. I did leave room. If I got a better run, I wouldn't have had to only be behind me. But really surprising, as we saw, Luke moves over to the left. I couldn't believe it, and that left this run up here. For Dimitri, you can see him thinking, where do I go, where do I go? Do I make it forward? Dennis and I are using side draft off of each other to get in front. We're 2x2. Luke can't come underneath me. The door was open, but he couldn't come underneath me because Dimitri was beside him. And then he defends Dimitri into the cutting there. Pivotal moment in the race there. But as you saw there, yeah, Dennis checked up a lot more than I was expecting into the cutting. You see I got caught out there. You see I closed real rapid, so I checked up a lot, and then I got my entry wrong and I kissed the wall there, and I thought, is that it? Am I done? And we talked through that before, right? But let's look at this final rundown. So we catch him quite a bit in the S's, and we're set up for a great run through, providing we get the exit here. All right, so we are going to go 3 wide, surely. I come back because Dennis went right at the last second. 3 wide we are. Are we 3 wide through the kink? Kind of we are, yeah. And then I got enough of a draft to get clear. Dennis comes at me around the outside but locks up. Runs wide, does not get the slowdown. But check this, 3 wide behind. Oh no, I've hit the wrong thing. McKellar, what have you done? Oh no. Let's go back. Here it is. 3 wide. It's going to be Dennis moves strategically across to the left to cover the inside and pushes out to the right to make sure they're all squeezed. Wheels into lock there between Luke and Dimitri. Dimitri forced to back out. Dennis on the tightest of tight lines. Dimitri tries to come back underneath. Doesn't quite get it. Dennis runs wide. Terry comes through on Dimitri. And Dennis gets P2 ahead of Luke. Epic race. Meanwhile, Neil's just been watching the show all the way behind. How about that? Oh, and I'm trying to find my car. Where am I? Oh, that's Dennis doing his things. Anyway, there I am. That was something. That was pretty damn epic, that final lap. Amazing stuff. And it really was a great deal of fun. Let's just check out the results quickly. Can I get some results, please? There we go. It's not Laguna Seca. Oh my goodness. It's been a while since I've done this, folks. And I wasn't as prepared as I thought. Oh, yeah, I'll do it on the fly here. Round 4. Let's just do this. Get it right. Bathurst. I didn't even notice the first time round. All right. Hopefully that'll update. Is that going to update? Come on, update. Wow. Let's try again. Results. Round 4 Bathurst, there we go. Alex McKellar on top, won by nearly half a second in the end ahead of the Great Dane, Dennis Johansson. Team Milo's Luke Whitten in third, rounding out the podium. Really strong battle between the three of us. A lot of fun. There's some hairy moments there considering what was on the line if you're worried about iRating rather than racing. But you can see racing was what we were on there for tonight. Terry McGrath, they picked up a great 4th position ahead of Dimitri and Neil in 5th and 6th respectively. I think Neil was quite content to try and pick up the pieces that never came. Nothing fell apart. The racing was blistering and excellent. So, speaking of results, let's check out the race results there. We've got, sorry, I'll pull that back up again. 20 I rating I got for that. For all that, the risk of losing like 150, we got 20 for winning it. 2K strength of field. Dennis picks up 20 for second, 32 for Luke, 20 for Terry, minus for Dimitri, minus for Neil. And it's, you know, it's a struggle. You think about the quality of that race for a 2K soft and you walk away with negatives, and it's you see how low the points are. Last season I would have been spewing about the points of winning a race like that, 126, but this season it's all about just having fun and racing. And I'll be honest with you, if nothing else, that's what I really enjoyed. Next up, we've got our season tally. Remember our goal a couple of weeks ago was to hit 7K? Well, we've done that. Current I rating is 72.84. I've had a few good weeks. Lime Rock last week was rough. Only got, in 20 races, only picked up 113 I rating. I had, you can see on the races over on the right there's some red ones where we lost them. Didn't have any accidents, just a couple of poor races. And, a couple of poor strategies on my part, if nothing else. And then this week we've done 5 races, had a few wins and picked up 84 coming into tomorrow, which is Friday. Very, very interesting. If I compare, if I compare this season to last season, so this is last season where we were going for championship points. You can see we only did 42 races, picked up a couple of hundred I rating, only 9 wins overall, right? My goal this season is to race, have fun, and you know the secondary goal was I rating, but we've sort of cracked that. But you see, I've done 50% as many races almost again as I did last season already in 4 weeks. We've already had, what's that? Over triple the wins. And that's and the I rating's more than double already. It's nearly triple. The point there being that, you know, last season focusing on the high strength of fields, the racing's tougher, it's harder to get results and what have you. And you know, you almost feel bad. You almost feel like you're farming by comparison. But to be honest with you, a race like that we just saw, that's not farming. That's hard and fast racing, and that's what you rock up for and try and get. So well done to everyone out there, and thank you for the racing that was. Really, really enjoyed that one. It was absolutely brilliant. Anyway, that might do us for now. Make sure you check out, obviously you found us here on YouTube. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, thumbs up, all those good things. It really does help the channel. We've had some good ones lately, and it's been really great to have that interaction. Chuck in a comment. Let us know what you think about the racing here and how you might have handled it. It was a lot of fun for me, I know. Check us out on Twitch on Sunday nights, Top Split TV over there on Twitch. That's where you'll find Sunday Night Lights, the best Skippy action going around. And of course, the Discord communities where we talk all things SNL. And Alex every now and then even updates the points, which is a bit behind on at the moment for Sunday Night Lights. Otherwise, folks, we'll tweet the stuff out on Twitter. Check it out. Check us out over there. But remember, like, follow, subscribe, thumbs up, all those things. Again, it really, really does help us. Love to interact with you. Had some great comments lately on some of the videos. It's great to have that conversation. So please join in. All right, folks, thank you very much for joining in for this one. Brilliant racing. Thanks to the guys out there who really made it all possible and made for a great night out. But yeah, that might do us. I'm Alex McKellar. Thank you again for watching us. Until next time, ciao for now.